Hey, it's Amethyst Virgo. So here I'm talking about, I'm gonna have another astrology explain it all, and I'll be talking about, in particular, topics of divorce, crime, allegations, a little bit about Venus in retrograde so far, and what it means for the topics that I'm discussing. A little bit maybe about Saturn and Aquarius. I've been talking a lot about that since that transit happened. So one thing I want us to understand about energy is that sometimes energy starts things start kind of they're boiling up before transit even hits. And so once the transit hits, sometimes it can exacerbate something that has already been in the mix. It is not like, hey, the day that transit happens, all of a sudden the thing happens, right? Sometimes, right? But I want to talk first about Devon Franklin and Meagan Good. So they are Hollywood couple. She's been an actress since she was a kid. Devon is a pastor, but he also is a producer as well. So he has some projects. He's a motivational speaker. I believe he produced some show as well. So he's a motivational speaker. He's religious as well. Like people have talked a lot about his when they got married. Sorry if you hear me typing, but this is how it's gonna be today. Um, yeah, I'm not doing the slides. I'm gonna add the slides to it, but um that he's religious and she's not, or it's not that she wasn't religious, but like that's a part of his, what I want to say, how some people, that's a part of their image, or that's a part of like who they are, their identity, right? So it'd be interesting if I had his birth chart to see if he has any first house placements. But anyway, part of his identity is he's very forthcoming with that. He has two films, I believe he's done, or maybe more than that, but I know he's best known for two films. They both have to do with religion, Miracles from Heaven and Heaven is for Real. And then also he's producers, he's an author, he's a motivational speaker. So what I say they're equally yoked is terms of success. Yes, I don't think that's the problem. I don't think their relationship ended because one's the breadwinner and one's not. Now they could have argued or had some issues over what was important to their marriage or their image as a couple, because it's one thing to have the image that you walk into a marriage with, but then what is your image as a couple, right? So I'm going to talk about their charts and put up a little image here as well so you can see the energy in the chart. So again, I don't have a birth time for either one of them, but I do have enough information to talk about what's going on. Now, again, this is entertainment purposes. This is educational purposes. I'm analyzing the astrology between them. So what I'm saying is not, I'm not going to say like, I know for a fact, I don't know them. You probably don't know them unless you do, right? But this is the astrology of it. So this is what I'm picking to talk about. So what I will say is one thing that I often not struggle with, but I get it, right? Like terms, right? Like just what you did in math. Like what's a like? So we often like to look at same element. Oh, you're an earth sign, I'm an earth sign. You're a water sign, I'm a water sign. People often like to look at these, and such as fire signs. He's an Aries and she's a Leo. And someone might say, oh, yeah, that's me and my partner. We're that too. It allows you to have a similar understanding of one another's drive and probably personality. I think having him being an Aries, she probably was drawn to that. She's a Leo woman. Leo women do tend to need a man that knows how to take charge. Like Leo women don't tend to want, again, I'm talking about Leo women who date men, right? Leo women don't tend to want men who are, uh, you know, too low key, not confident, unsure of himself. A Leo woman is not really typically, I'm saying typically, want to build you up. She kind of wants you to already have yourself together. She's different than and again, I'm not bashing my Virgo women. I'm a Virgo myself. But I got, don't fire me, but a Virgo woman, I think, or who else? A Pisces, I don't know, Cancer woman. You have other signs of women who are, and I think with Virgo, it's the perception of like, keenly, let me look at you. Okay, you got potential. Let me work with you. Don't do that too much, ladies. But Virgo, I think, is more willing to do that, is what I'm saying, than a Leo woman. I'm not saying there's no Leo woman who's ever done that. I'm not saying there's no Virgo woman who's ever done that. So again, I don't do the whole blanket thing, because if somebody is an exception to the rule, I can always tell you why, right? The point that I'm making is that she liked that about him. He's an Aries sun. Aries, if an Aries man is confident, if an Aries man is successful, that can be very attractive to many people because they seem self-assured. So he's successful. She probably, and he also he's a man of integrity. Now, I won't say it's just because of him being, being religious, but I do think that's, so I want us to be clear. One, I respect people's religion. I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm more spiritual, but I do know about religions. I do study religions. I study different ways of beliefs. So I understand a lot. Um, and so I do think for some people, their religion is what helps them feel like they need to be a good person. Like that for them, that's what it is. We do know we have people who use religion for bad means, or they are basically using it to manipulate people. Like we know there's different sides of this, right? My point is him in particular, she looked at him like that's a man of worth. That's a man of integrity. He does carry himself with integrity. He carries himself. He's unapologetic about his appreciation and love for God. He's very unapologetic about that. That might have attracted her to him. He's also a Mercury and Aries man. What he says is what he means. This is, now again, she's a Mercury and Leo woman. So here's what we have going on. Fire and fire together. It's just going to produce more fire. And when times are good for these individuals, most likely it was good. But you have to understand, like when we're now dealing with, let me paint this picture for you. She's a moon in Scorpio without a doubt. Because his moon is at the 0 degree of Cancer, we actually don't know if he's a Cancer moon or it's Gemini moon. Therefore, it could be that he could be a Gemini moon. I'm probably airing that he probably is a Cancer moon. I'm going to air that he might be just on things that it seems like. But I would say for sure, if he is, we have to understand he's a cardinal man. This is a very cardinal directive man. He is used to telling people how things are going to go in probably even his career. And that doesn't always mean a person is bossy, but it does mean he leads with conviction. I know what I mean. I know what I say. He probably had to tweak that a little bit when he got into a marriage, because you can't treat your wife like you treat, or your husband like you treat your workers. And not that you should treat your workers bad, but it's different. A work relation, you try and get a task done. In a marriage, you got to get emotions involved, right? So he's a cardinal man, sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, moon probably in Cancer, Jupiter's in Cancer. So if he does have a moon in Cancer, it's probably conjunct that Jupiter, depending on that degree. Okay. He probably felt really lucky. Like that's what I'm saying. I think that their original intentions for getting together was very pure. I really do. Based on what their interviews are and based on their charts. His what else he has? Yes, he also has Pluto and Libra. So does she. Pluto and Libra, and they also have she's got a lot of expressive components to her chart. Here's what I mean. They both have she also has he has a Libra North Node. She has a Leo North Node. Here's the thing about Megan's chart. It's expressive. She's a Leo. We cannot repress the Leo, right? You can't repress a Leo's expression. And like, I know at one point he was defending his wife. At one point, somebody tried to make a comment about what she was wearing. But there's also been just different reports and different things that he said, just minor things. I don't think he's done anything like too egregious or abrasive to her publicly. But like one time he made a comment about her body type or something like that. And we know Megan is beautiful. Like she's always been beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. She's a sexy image to her. She's very, she keeps her body, fit and right. And like, she's, a lot of people are drawn to her. She's a lot of, her personality is very open as well, but also like physically, you can see there's a lot of things about her someone would like. You know what I'm saying? My point is that she doesn't seem like she really has that much to do to work on her body, but he made a comment before that kind of could be seen as like he was saying something against her, right? And again, it's probably gonna joke. That's what an Aries person is gonna do. If an Aries person ever, especially a man, sorry, just to say that, like, there tends to be this kind of conviction behind what they say, your Mercury and Aries. But then if the person gets offended, Aries usually sometimes like, well, I didn't mean it that way. That was a joke, right? Because remember, Aries is kind of a jokester. Aries sometimes can take things too far and say, well, that was a joke. But it's like Aries, everybody's not in your mind to understand that, right? And so that was my point, is like, she's a Venus and Virgo woman. You can't say something that's going to make a woman self-conscious if she's a Venus and Virgo, because Venus is our value and Virgo is very self-critical. So even though my point is that she's beautiful, we know that we can see that she's beautiful, not only physically, like she, facially, she also is very, also body-wise, she takes care of herself as well. My point is that Venus and Virgo woman, now she's kind of probably overthinking those comments he made. I have to look up what he said. Because I don't want to take it too long for this, because I'm going to wrap this up and move on to some other stuff. What did he say? Because I remember when it came out, people were like, I don't have to look it up. Because I'm recording this, I'm going to put the images in. If I find it, I'll put the images in. But it was like something small. It was like a small comment. It was a small comment, but it was something that a woman a woman might take that seriously because women do tend to. It's not even that women are all self conscious. It's just that there's more pressure on women to look a certain way in the society, right? And all of that. She's a Venus and Virgo, right? She is going to start to overthink things, no matter how many times people are telling Megan she's beautiful. And this is besides Devon. I believe that for Megan in the 17th degree could definitely represent that confidence as well. I don't think she's fully not confident. I think she's very self-aware, right? But I do think that Megan probably had self-conscious issues growing up, even though she's always been, she was a cute girl. Now she's a beautiful woman. Like she's always, we could look at her and be like, oh yeah, but she has probably faced these issues. So if your partner is saying something that can exacerbate that feeling of self-doubt, of image and body image and things like that. Now they both have a Earth Venus. And I think that's very helpful in terms of a union. He's a Taurus, he's a Venus in Taurus, and she's a Venus in Virgo. There is an earthly energy. We need to do this together. I think that they both probably had similar mindsets about money and work ethic, okay? Because I think that when you see an Earth Venus, it really helps you stay committed to the long term. They were together for 9 years. That is longer than some people. So it is a long time, but I do think that was helpful to their marriage as well. Now, what I was saying before I end this, I don't want to go over too long. She has a lot of expressive energy in her chart. You cannot hold a type person like that down for too long. So before I jump into that, I also want to tell you some things I also know. Saturn and Leo. I think, again, like I said, I think if we take him out of the marriage, this is a very this man has a lot of respect for himself. He drums up a lot of respect from other people. He's very esteemed. If you were around him, you probably feel that energy. Now he's Saturn and Leo. Okay, so Saturn and Leo. When you put Leo and Saturn, it's not as much of the performative part of Leo. It is more about the prestige, the honor type of energy. Whereas with her, she has Saturn and Libra. Now, often when I see people with Saturn and Libra, now Saturn and Libra is actually considered to be exalted. It's actually considered to be a good placement, especially when it comes to negotiation and liberation. Your money being managed well, being able to preserve and keep your money sometimes is Saturn in Libra. Like your contracts work really well. You make the right decisions. She does take on typically the right roles for her. I'm trying to remember, has there ever been a movie? I mean, I'm pretty sure every actor has been in a movie that didn't do as well, but like she does take good roles. I do think she does take good roles for herself. And I know she's now apparently in Harlem. I haven't seen Harlem yet, but I've heard and read some things about it. So, she's in Harlem now. She does tend to pick up roles that will get her name back out there. Sorry, I'm a little congested. So Saturn and Libra. The importance here is, though, what I would say is sometimes, remember, Saturn still means restriction. It still means limitation. And sometimes Saturn and Libra, especially her having it in Pluto as well. She's Pluto and Libra. I think together, Saturn and Pluto in Libra could definitely indicate a person that was likely to have a divorce. Okay. And again, we don't know what house it's in right now, but, her natal chart, but that could be divorce. Why? Well, she's 21st degree Pluto. Okay. She's trying to navigate a lot of things about her own expression and freedom and her own journeys. She's a 15th degree sun. She has her own mind, her own thoughts. She also has a 13th degree Mercury, 13. That is a very directive energy. Her having her own mind and kind of sometimes doing things on her own. Like, here's the thing with their different communication styles. Like, he's probably like, well, this is what I'm saying this right now. She's the Leo. That's fixed Mercury. She's not budging really. I do think Megan may have adapted herself a little bit more to this role of like, a wife of a Christian man. I don't know what her religious beliefs are, but there are a lot of people who aren't practicing Christians or practicing in their religion, but they grew up with that religion, right? A lot of us can relate to that. Like for some of us, we know a lot about Christianity, even though we don't identify with it as an adult. We know what it is because we grew up around it, right? And I do think she probably, to be with him and in the image they portray, I think she's also a Christian, right? But that's more of his role, his identity, what he sees himself as. Her, she still wants to have that free spirited energy. I wouldn't be surprised if she's like, yeah, but I also have these other beliefs. She might have some spiritual beliefs, that are not because not aligned with the religious type of energy. So I do think the expressive energy of her cannot be quelled. She's Mars in Cancer. He's a Mars in Leo. Well, the Mars and Leo, as we can see, when we talk about synastries, we see why they were drawn to each other. Them having, I want you to understand, them divorcing does not mean they didn't have a strong synastry. Them divorcing didn't mean they didn't have a passionate relationship. But them divorcing means, like I always tell people, it's really how much you want to put into something. Right? Could it be in their charts that we dove deeper? We see that they needed a different type of partner, perhaps. I don't have their house placements to make that full analysis, but what I would say is like their synastry is not bad. It's pretty good, but again, it all depends on the individual and what energy in their chart they're tapping into. If you are two Mars and Leo and you're trying to control that Sun and Leo person, that's not going to work. You're going to actually end up clashing because you're not going to be battling for power. Right? You want to be careful with that fire and fire. Ooh, we're fire and fire. Yeah, you could be that power couple, but you don't want to battle each other. You have to understand there are going to be ways in which one of you has to yield. And I don't think it has to be the woman, and I don't think it has to be the man, but you have to come together and compromise. And there may be some things you need to compromise on this, and you need to compromise on that. But with Meagan, Mars and Cancer, okay, well, already Cancer is a good placement or a good sign for acting, actresses and actors and things like that. They can usually drum up the emotions out of themselves in order to really act in a way that is convincing. That Mars and Cancer, though, I think there's probably a side to Meagan that can be a bit, she might have some hidden anger sometimes, and who doesn't, right? But the reason I'm saying that is because she's got a moon in Scorpio. She's a moon in Scorpio. Without a doubt, she's a moon in Scorpio. And so that internalization, that private energy, she might be the type to more so do the silent treatment, or like, I said what I said type of energy, Nene Leakes, right? Mercury in Leo, I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to shut down. That could be Meagan, Mars and Cancer as well. I'm going to say it, might be a little explosive. He probably was surprised by her, the way in which she handles situations. I don't mean she's wrong. I think your chart is how you're supposed to express things. Now, do we all have to work on the way in which we deliver things? Perhaps he probably had a lot to work on as well. In fact, Devon has a lot of retrograde energy. Devon has a lot to work on. If he, astrologically, I don't know anything else about the man, but I'm saying astrologically, he has a lot to work on. So I'm not here to tell you she's wrong, he's wrong. We don't actually know that. I'm telling you what the astrology is saying. And I'm saying that if she felt for too long that she was stifled, right? This is why you could tend to have these situations happen where now she's like, wait, but I want to do this type of project, or I want to do this, or maybe just feeling in general, like this is not the role I want for myself. This is not the life I want for myself. I want a different life. I do think some of that boiled down to lifestyle differences. And again, she is a mutable, there's not a lot of mutable energy in her chart. It's not enough mutable energy in her chart for her to fold to Devon for long term. It's not. You have a Venus in Virgo. She tried. I think she tried to fit a certain image, or she tried to fit into his world. But it got to a point where maybe it's like, she's like, you know what? It's too much effort to do this. I do think they worked through it. I do think they tried. But also one thing I wanted to mention, remember I said Saturn and Pluto and Libra and divorce, but also she's Jupiter conjunct Saturn. So, at this point, I think it's also like, she having luck in attracting a marriage and attracting a partner. But then that's where I tell people, like, but look at the full story. If Jupiter's conjunct Saturn in her chart for sure, but then Pluto was there. Pluto also can represent transformation and change. So if the person doesn't change, and that could be him or her, that is where you're likely to see in a natal chart. Now, a transit chart, of course, would give you more of the ins and outs and tell you more of the timing of a divorce or the timing of something. You get what I'm saying? So lastly, when I want to talk about their North nodes, she's a North node in Leo at the 0 degree. She needs to be herself. She has to be herself. Her next relationship, if she gets in one, you're going to probably see this could be a man that is a little bit more, there's something about him less reserved than Devon. That's not to mean there's anything wrong with Devon. There's somebody out there for Devon too, obviously. Devon, now here's what I say about Devon. His likelihood of being in a marriage again. Meagan, I don't know. I'm 50-50 with Meagan getting married again. I definitely think Meagan will be in a relationship again with a man that you could tell has less, is not as reserved as Devon. And again, that doesn't mean good or bad. The man might not be as respected as Devon. I don't know. But what I'm saying about Devon, if he is a moon in Cancer, well, what I say about moon in Cancer, people, I don't care whether you're a man, woman, your orientation, whatever. It's always an attachment to the feminine. Moon in Cancer people, there's an attachment to the feminine. And some people it's the relationship. Some people it's just a relative, a friend, a mama. Some people it's just I have female friends. I have a lot of female friends. That's a Moon in Cancer person type thing. That's what they would say, right? There's an attachment to some type of feminine energy. So typically when I see people who listen, and I told you Nicolas Cage was going to get married again. Remember was it last summer? But he came up in I used his chart as an example of something. And again, I'm not a Nicolas Cage fan. I don't really know much about him besides some of the movies he's been in. I don't follow his personal life like that. I don't know. But I looked at his chart and I said, he's going to get married again because he's been married a lot of times. And he wasn't married again at that point. But I looked at his chart and I'm like, this pattern, yep, he's going to get married again. And 6 months later or something, what I said was right. And again, I don't follow this man's chart. I mean, I don't follow his career. So it was, just by me looking at his astrology. Devon probably will get married again. First of all, he wants children. He wants to pass on a legacy. Saturn and Leo. Yep. Also Saturn, Mars and Leo. I need to have children to pass on a legacy. That's a Mars and Leo thing. That's a very Mars and Leo thing. Typically a man type of energy of saying that. That's what I'm getting from him. He wants to pass his name on type of energy. And look, Moon in Cancer, there's a woman involved. Usually it's always a woman involved. I'm not saying he has one now, but I'm saying typically there's a feminine nature needed from that Moon in Cancer person, regardless of how it comes out. Okay. So I would say he's likely potentially to marry again. Now, the thing that Devon has to work on, his North Node is in Libra. I'm sorry. Hers is Leo. His is Libra. But he's a sun in Aries. So there is some karmic energy Devon has to work through because his South Node is in the same sign as his sun. And then he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in retrograde. That's definitely pointing to some South Node energy from the past life. And again, if I was doing a natal chart reading, I would go into what that means. I don't have his placements or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot he has to work through. So before he gets married again or a new relationship, he has to really work through concepts of independence versus the partnership. He might need to leave that I'm leading through my power, my independence at work, or there's certain components to him where it's nothing wrong with you being in the marriage and you having insight and foresight of what you want the direction to go through. And I think that in their marriage, she did try to kind of let him lead. And I know that's people have those conversations of who's leading and who's not and what's wrong. You do what you need to do for your relationship. Don't worry about what these people are saying on YouTube. Like, are you safe? Are you in a safe relationship? Are you happy? Are they happy? Do you feel that you are respected? Okay, if you got those things in order, then y'all work out whatever you need to work out, right? And you don't have to worry about what this person's makeup of the relationship is versus theirs. But my point is, like, he has to work through his North Node and Libra. I do think that there's an inability sometimes for him to truly compromise. What I sense that he does, I'm sensing from his chart, he compromises, but only for so long, because an Aries person is going to try, but sometimes too much Aries energy, it's like you're still going to end up doing things your own way. And not only that, but he also has a Mars and Leo, right? And so there's already a lot of fiery energy in the chart where he is used to doing things his way, and he's used to doing things in a way that produces outcomes for him. But again, I'm not saying he didn't try. I'm not saying she didn't try. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I'm pretty sure they left on cordial terms, perhaps. It seems like they maybe, I hope the marriage, the divorce doesn't get ugly. I hope they're just able to, wrap it up and be done with it, and move on to be happy. Before I move on to the next thing, I want to talk about breakups during this retrograde. A lot of times people talk about Mercury and Mercury in retrograde. Venus is in retrograde right now in Capricorn. And what I had said, I'm going to read to you what I said. I'm going to put it up here as well. I had said this on my newsletter for December. I said, the retrograde ushers in a need to reestablish who and what is valuable to you. A retrograde offers a slowing down of progress so we can sometimes reflect. Some people may seek to reestablish what matters most to them. This reflective period can affect mindset about money, relationship status, or even success or reputation. Some people may question what success means to them since Capricorn is associated with ambitions. You could see people become fascinated once again with something traditional, especially with Venus being associated with style, aesthetics, and beauty. Okay. With the Venus beauty aspect, I would say look for somebody going back to their old style. Look for a celebrity. Look for somebody, even if in your personal life, going back to their original hair color, right? Removing their, taking off their, the outcomes of their surgery, taking out implants, something like that. That's what I mean by Venus being in retrograde in Capricorn. But anyway, in beauty and style and aesthetics, somebody going back to an old style is definitely a Venus in retrograde aspect. But let me go back to the relationship. at this point, they were kind of like, they kept it up for a long time saying like, this is our image. We are a brand right now. People, they're couple goals for some people. Like their couples goals, people are looking at them. But at this point, they had to say, you know what? It's not worth it just to have our reputation be the Franklins. We need to split. This is not working out for us, and we need to make this move now. So I do think that the Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the difference with Venus retrograde in Capricorn is it's usually people of status or people that have a reputation to uphold, and you're going to see that change. You might see a lot more news with people who are considered to be power couples. You might see even people going back to exes, but it could be a power struggle thing as well. Venus and retrograde in Capricorn. Remember, Capricorn is sometimes, now Devon and Meagan is a little bit more tame, it's just divorce, but you also want to be careful for any exes that had power over you. Capricorn could represent, being very ruthless sometimes. I'm not saying the person, I'm talking about the energy. So chill out if you're a Capricorn. But that ruthless energy that I'm going to get what I want no matter what. Because I've seen some stories of exes attacking exes. All right. I'm seeing some stories about that. So just be, aware of that during this Venus retrograde in Capricorn as well. All right, so when we're talking about Chris Noth or Noth, sorry, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his name. He was most known for Sex and the City, also Law and Order. He's been in other projects, you know exactly who he is. So he has some allegations against him of sexual assault. Now, the first time I read the article was 2 women, now it's up to 5. And I had said during the Saturn and Aquarius, one of the many Saturn Aquarius videos I did, I talked about people who are going to be accused of something, especially people with prominence and power. He's famous. That's dealing with Saturn. Okay, that's dealing with Saturn energy, and Saturn being in Aquarius means typically it's going to be multiple people coming out. And so he has up to 5 allegations. Now, you already know that when it comes to anything that is not 100% proven, even when people have a lot of evidence or it seems like someone is guilty or innocent of something, you do have to call situations allegations. And I know that's very frustrating for people, especially for victims of any type of, serious crime such as this. So I do want to put that out there, that I do recognize how incredibly, serious these allegations are. Read the, stories about it. You do see that, there's some similarities in what these women are saying. So let's talk about his astrology. Now, again, I don't know him. This is astrological purposes. This is for educational purposes. This question is basically, is there anything in his chart that could show that regardless of whether what the outcome is, that he has any type of issues with power and control? Now, when I'm looking for someone I'm not looking just for people that want power. A lot of people want power. A lot of people want influence. I'm looking for like anyone who's accused of anything that could be considered violent. Anything could be considered, coercing, forcing, anything of those types of allegations. I want to look at, is there any combinations in the chart? And the thing I'm initially going towards is going to be Scorpio and Capricorn both in the chart. Now, don't fret if you have Scorpio and Capricorn in your chart. I'm not saying this is you. I'm not doing a reading on you right now. We're going to look at this individual here. Either way, having placements that do indicate like a kind of forcefulness or seriousness, it can sometimes for some people not be as serious as him and what people are saying about him, but it can sometimes be a person who is still very into power, dominating other people. It may not always be of a sexual nature, right? Now, the first thing I see is, yes, he's a Scorpio, 20th degree. The degree system I use that is associated very closely to Scorpio energy. So this is a super sun Scorpio. Not only that, he has a Scorpio stellium. Now, the Mercury's at the first degree, so the Mercury's a little far apart, but he has a sun in Scorpio, his Mercury in Scorpio, his Venus in Scorpio in retrograde, and he has Saturn in Scorpio. So he has a lot of Scorpio energy in the chart. So that alone is like, wow, this is a person who understands their own power, what they want to get. Now, that can typically be good from a person who wants to be successful because Scorpio energy is good at getting knowing what it needs and what it wants and not budging. But that can be negative if you're an uninvolved Scorpio, or you tend to use it for power against other people in ways that, take away their free will and things of that nature. So that's a lot of Scorpio. But then we look and I'm like, well, what else? What else we have is the Capricorn. He's a Capricorn North node, okay? Which means the South node is in Cancer. But his South node is in Cancer. His South node is in Cancer with Jupiter and Uranus. But Uranus is in retrograde. When I see retrograde planets, I tend to say there is something he needs to learn in this lifetime. This Venus and this Uranus in retrograde, he's learning something about his own limitations within relationships and in interactions with other people. So you could say, If people are getting in trouble a lot, they're not really finding their north node. Now, Capricorn at its best self, Capricorn energy has composure. It has self composure, and it has self discipline, and it knows when to stop. Now, we do have to know that Capricorn energy, though, on the flip side, unevolved, can definitely be about authority, imposing my will on you, not having any compassion, not caring, being ruthless. That's also a characteristic we can see when Capricorn, and sometimes in the business, you have to kind of be that way, I guess. But Chiron is also in Capricorn for him. If you don't heal Chiron, and I don't know what his Black Moon and Lilith sign is, that would be very interesting to find out, because let me see if I can do it real quick as I'm talking, because that could also help us see his, vices. I don't know. Let me see if I can do it right now. But what I wanted to say about it is there's also some aspects. So before I jump to the aspects, he also has Pluto in Leo, and that Pluto, a Pluto and Leo generation person, but also at the same time, he is associated with, power or image, or Leo energy does tend to deal with this concept of fame. And Pluto being here, remember, Pluto can be all consuming. Now, because of that, what we're going to see with him is, why are some people surprised? Why are some people probably going to defend him? This is a man who has a lot of fans. People are drawn to him. Pluto in Leo can, especially for a person who tends to be famous. Now, not everyone is going to be famous that has a, Pluto Leo. But if you happen to be it, and you happen to be him, and we already know that he has a lot of fans, you are going to see that this is something that draws people in. Now, because of that, what we're dealing with him is using your power, your fame, using your image to somehow impose on someone else, using your image for bad, or right? Because if we look at this, let me see. Yeah, his sun is square Pluto. His sun is square his Pluto, and his sun is square his Mars. His Mars is in Aquarius. There's a lot of fixed energy. This fixed energy, square energy, is dealing with the challenging of self-control, of also understanding how to get rid of any of these habits that he may have, that he did. This is not the first allegation. A lot of them date back to, the first one that dates back to decades ago. So a decade or so ago. But also, he was alleged with Beverly Johnson alleged him of being abusive. Now here's Mars, Sun square Pluto, Venus square Pluto, Mars square Saturn. That's a lot of squares between very intense, heavy, dominating, authoritative planets. The Sun squaring Mars, the Sun squaring Pluto. It can mean that in business or his career, he's actually benefited. A square does not always have to mean something bad. It can also mean that you have this kind of ability to overcome something, or to be seen in a way where people trust or want to be around you, because you do have that kind of authoritative energy about you. The Sun square Mars, being very self-involved, but at the same time, his actions can sometimes harm your image. If you start to see a person that has Sun and he squares to the Sun, also understand the image, the ego. There could be too much ego, right? I'm not going to get caught. No one's going to believe you. That type of energy could be coming about from that. Also, Mars square Saturn. Sometimes you can see a person who actually is being abused, or has a history of abuse with certain squares to Saturn or Pluto. Or it can be the vice versa, where the person is the actual abuser. His ascendant is also square his MC. They say he's a Virgo. This birth time is supposedly accurate. His Virgo ascendant is square the MC. Right? Your actions, your instincts, the way you tend to methodically try to go through something and try to, think. He probably thought he could outsmart the situation, it's not going to come out. Square your MC. Your MC is your public image. So sometimes your birth chart can give you hints of scandal. Now, again, we don't know how this is going to come out in the end, but there is something dealing with energy that is about power. And also, his Black Moon and Lilith is in Scorpio, conjunct Saturn and the Sun. Power, authoritative control, not yielding to some of the caution that he may need. He's a Virgo ascendant, but if it's at the 8th degree, it's a very calculated type of Virgo ascendant person. So again, I'm not saying these placements make a person, all of the people with this are going to act like that. And I'm not saying he has a horrible chart. It's not a chart reading. He has some other placements. But again, you also see Uranus in Cancer in retrograde. A strange connection to feminine energy, a strange fixation to feminine energy in a way that can, if we look at the fact that what else is Uranus doing in his chart? right? In terms of Jupiter square Neptune, Neptune is square Chiron. All these things, all these placements are making aspects to one another and creating the dynamic of who he is or what he may be capable of. Now, again, I'm this is not a video to say he is, he isn't, or whatever, because I can't really make a decision. Again, I haven't poured over the transcripts and all these different things. But regardless of this, I think even if, in general, this is a man that has a lot of power, needs a lot of needs to be seen and to be heard and to get what he wants, regardless of the outcome of these cases that are now, he's lost a lot of endorsements. So, these places that were, these not places, these companies have cut ties with him. So it ain't even about what I'm saying. These companies are doing it, right? These companies. So he was dropped from A3 Artist Agency. He was dropped from the Peloton ad. He was dropped from the Equalizer. They announced on the 20th he's not coming back. This article's on Newsweek. The tequila, he was on a deal with his tequila brand for $12 million. And again, what I say with Saturn, again, I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be, but Saturn is karmic. Whatever you've been doing to a group of people, whatever you've been doing in particular to the collective, it's coming out. Jupiter is also in Aquarius as well, working with that truth energy. And again, I'm just saying, some things are coming out for a lot of people. Okay. So next I'm going to talk about Jussie Smollett. For the longest time, I did not have Jussie's information. Like, I did not have his birth time, or the original site I went to said they didn't have his birth time. And then I recorded the video part of this, and then I found that there is a website that's really reputable that said they had his birth chart. They had seen his birth certificate, so it's valid. So when you're going through certain ratings, certain websites will rate the validity of the birth chart time based on what they've seen. So he is, in all intents and purposes, a very Gemini energy person. And as I've said in a video before, I don't remember which one, I was going through the different signs and what each sign can sometimes get in trouble for. Might have been the shadow side of each sign. And with Gemini, it's what you say. Okay, Gemini, it's typically going to be, you're going to be in trouble for what you say. Now, not all Geminis, but if a Gemini individual gets in trouble, it's typically going to be words. Okay, and when you use words in a way that is deceptive. So we already know that Jussie claimed that he was getting hate mail to the studios. Remember, for many people, he was in Empire. For those of us who remember back in the day, him and his siblings had a show, I believe it's called The Smolletts, ABC 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, I don't remember exact, but The Smolletts. So we know him mostly from Empire and some other acting gigs he's had, but his sister Journey is also an actress. You definitely recognize Journey. So siblings, we know them. And I had honestly never really heard much about him that was controversial, to be honest. So this was very, surprising. So basically what happened was, I believe it was in 2019, 2018. Well, I have to look it up. But the point is for me to do the astrology, not really to run down the reports, right? But what I would say is that he claimed that he was in Chicago. Well, he was in Chicago, but he claimed that some men or two men came up from behind him, covered his face, wrapped a noose around his neck, said some racial and homophobic slurs, and then put bleach on him or put some type of substance on him. And so he was saying it was a hate crime. And then people were outraged because obviously these things do happen. Like, it is not completely out of, it's not unheard of for someone to, attack someone racially or for their sexuality. So basically people were upset, right? But then it came out that his story was not consistent, and then they found two brothers that they claim he hired to stage this. So basically the point of this is you cannot lie to the police. You're not supposed to, they're saying like, oh, this is a federal crime. You can't accuse someone of a hate crime and it didn't really happen. And of course people are mad, but you also have people who are trying to use this as an example about like, oh, see, we shouldn't care about race. You get what I'm saying? So you do have different sides of people trying to use this for their own agenda. Anyway, point being, Jussie was found guilty of the 5 of 6 charges. He might get fined. There is always a possibility in any case, most of them, for jail time. I don't know if he's actually going to get jail time. But anyway, we know what went down. So I'm talking about the astrology of it. So I'm saying all this Gemini energy does not make it surprising to me why he would, you know, the Gemini energy does not surprise me of why he would, why this is something that would happen, because his sun and moon are directly conjunct, literally both of the 29th degree in Gemini. So, this idea, this feeling, this need to do something like this, to stage it. I don't want to say that it's in his chart, but I want to say that when you have the 29th degree, there is a need to be seen. There's a need to have fame. Okay. And I do see and read something that there's this concern he has about not being seen. And also what you have to remember is that I believe at the time this happened, Empire was on its last season. So what we're dealing with here is a dominance of Gemini energy. This is a Gemini ascendant. This is a Gemini sun. This is a Gemini moon. This is a Gemini Mercury. And I don't know enough to know if he's ever embellished before, but I would say with this energy here, he's a smooth talker. I would say that he's a charismatic talker. I would say that people tend to believe him when he talks. I mean, he was even on an interview about this. He was interviewed and he just went along with it. Now we would say that his, what else we have here going on is the fact that he has Venus and Taurus, so he wants to hold on tight to what he has. So in terms of his need to feel like I have resources, he probably was worried, like, when Empire ends, what am I going to do? Not that he can't get other acting roles, he can, but Venus and Taurus tends to cling to what's familiar. So for him, it may have been really difficult for him to have to process that he no longer would have this income coming in. Also, we have to understand here, people with Jupiter in retrograde, really understanding your energy, understanding your luck, not, doing anything that would make it difficult for you to receive more blessings. His Jupiter's in Scorpio. Scorpio, we know, is energy that can be about the hidden. It can be about the unseen. But that's why he should learn, you can't really go beyond your own reach. You can't go beyond, you can't force things to happen. You can't force yourself to be seen in a certain light that's not actually true. Jupiter's about truth. Not only that, but I said to myself, well, wait, having Gemini energy is not enough for a person to just be a liar. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, because at its ideal, remember, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, objectivity. Now, Gemini can be the trickster, but believe this, if a Gemini is ever lying to you, they know exactly what they're doing. Now, when you have Geminis that you're like, oh, this person just lies and lies, they don't mean what they say, always look for an opposition or a square to a planet that would cause that. Now, what I would say was, like I said, well, wait, does he have any Sag in his chart? Because these are opposite signs, Gemini and Sagittarius. Does he have any Sag in his chart that would mean somebody could embellish the facts? Yes, he has Neptune in Sagittarius and he has Uranus in Sagittarius. And we know Neptune can sometimes be a cloud, not quite sure of what we could actually believe, right? And what's interesting is his Gemini sun is literally opposing his Neptune and Sagittarius energy. So that right there also helps us understand some of these things that came about. This need to use information to embellish the truth. And he knew enough. If I make this somewhat accurate, people might believe it. Here's what I mean. He could have said, hey, someone attacked me, and reported it later. No, he staged a whole scene. This is really crafty, right? His Mercury, I believe, is also at the 8th degree. Let me see, because the 8th degree deals with gain, information by gain through Mercury, the 8th degree. Now, it can be good for people who use it to kind of that conviction in their voice, but also 8th degree can be hidden. It could be secrets. And also what I would say here is that he has Mars in Libra, which we know is considered to be a detriment sign because Mars rules the opposite sign. So Mars in Libra, you have to be really, there's no way he did this without putting this by somebody first. And we already know that he hired the brothers. That's the allegation, that he hired the brothers to stage this attack. So would Jussie have done this 100% if nobody else was in on it? I don't think he would have. I think that when you see a lot of air energy, there's typically other people involved in the process. He's a lot of Geminis, a lot of talk around the situation. This was probably thought out months in advance, weeks in advance, probably. I don't think this is a spur of the moment type thing. But at the same time, we also, like I said before, that Venus and Taurus kind of gives me a hint, and also the fact that he has Chiron also in Taurus. needing to not hold on, like this need to hold on to things that belong to him, and like this role being so important, and then fearing. I'm getting that he feared. I'm sensing that he feared what's going to happen to me now. And I don't know why, because I do think he could have gotten other roles, but I think that's what was going on here. And you also have to remember the fact that when we're looking at his chart, again, like I said, be careful of who you're around. His Neptune is in the seventh house. And I almost wonder if, like somebody told him, I don't want to say they told him to do it, but I feel like they said, yeah, that's a good idea. Like he didn't have someone around him saying like, no, this is not a good idea. And I'm not saying everyone in his personal life knew. That's not what I'm saying. And I know his family has really come out. They don't believe he lied, and all these different things. But his Neptune even being in the seventh house, he has to really watch his associations. And not only that, but also him having Mars conjunct Saturn, that can bring about a person who is very much in control, wants control. This can mean losing control. Someone saying that a series that you've been on for years that gave you the most, the biggest fame that you've had, is ending. And this fear of losing out on something, right? Because Saturn in Libra, which he has, is exalted. That's actually a good placement. But that Mars energy in that Libra can definitely cause Mars conjunct Saturn when it's not well applied. That fifth house can bring about some pride. Here's what I mean. The fifth house is typically fun, is fun loving, is joy. But like I said before, the fifth house is also home to where we feel the most confident. And what you have to understand about the fifth house ruled by the sun is that if in any way the ego is too much applied, if the ego is too stretched, you could definitely have that. The fact that his sun in Gemini, right? The fact that his sun in Gemini, if we look at the degree, so his sun is in Gemini at the 29th degree, which means it's actually almost in Cancer. Technically, by degree, his sun actually squares his Mars. So when I see people with their sun squaring Mars, I always say, your actions are going to be noticed. And if they're bad, for some reason, they're going to be amplified. So it's really important to pay attention to your image. But that's all I wanted to say about him in this regard. And again, what I will also say about this, what's interesting with this Gemini energy, remember, during this whole thing happening, the North Node is in Gemini. So not only that, but transiting his chart, he has this energy coming through. And the thing that he needs to focus on mostly is his North Node being in Cancer. This is about him calming down, finding peace within, finding something that he enjoys. Being true to self is really what he should have been applying to, because he's operating from his South Node. If you have your North Node in Cancer and you're trying to get power and you're trying to retain power and you are getting in trouble for it, right? I always tell people, look at what's happening around you to understand the energy in your chart. That's high profile. Capricorn is high profile, right? But his South Node is in Capricorn, so it's very important for Jussie to not be living in that need to gain and get. His Lilith is also in Capricorn, so I definitely feel like what's going on here is he's learning some lessons, and he definitely has to work more from his North Node than his South Node. All right, so what I want to talk about lastly is about Saturn in Aquarius transit. I've started to talk about that already. So I'm going to put up, this is something I wrote in the summer. So when I did Astrology explains it all in the summertime, I had mentioned this. I had said that, as a reminder, Saturn represents authority, the establishment, and the rules, those who make the rules. Remember that. Aquarius is the energy of the people, the collective. People who have shared interests are bonded together to disagree with what is provided to them. That is happening a lot in employment. People are even using technology. Now, we know that Aquarius is the sign that's most associated with technology or discovery of things that are more, novel in nature, inventions and things of that nature. So Aquarius, dealing with technology, you're seeing people upload on social media. They're quitting their jobs. They're recording themselves quitting their jobs. They are recording their place of work and then, sharing how much they dislike where they are. And so, understanding that Aquarius energy rules rebellion. People are coming together and saying, I don't want this anymore. This is not for me. You also are seeing some managers, or some companies be unnecessarily harsh as well. We have to remember that Pluto is still in Capricorn. Pluto has been in Capricorn for a long time. However, remember, energy awakens like a volcano. It awakens sometimes. So Pluto's been in Capricorn for a long time. Remember, Pluto is domination, is power, is I'm taking control over you. I am, embedding you, right? Whereas Capricorn, we know, is ruled by Saturn, and Capricorn deals with that more traditional nature. This is how things are going to go. So Pluto is still in Capricorn, representing kind of the the way in which there still is hold, but companies don't want to change. They don't want to give workers more sick days. They don't want to, some are starting to pay people more. You're noticing that increase happening, right? You're noticing people say, well, let's give them more money or let's pay more, right? Everywhere you go, no matter what state, you go to the store, you go to the, drive through, you're seeing the signs now hiring, you're seeing those things. So some companies are trying to get ahead of it or trying to respond to it by saying, well, what do our workers need? But I think there needs to be a more permanent shift in understanding, especially in the United States, about work and a way in which we make sure that workers have the time they need, workers have insurance they need. And again, of course, if you're a hard worker, right? If you are doing what you need to do, because, here's the flip side of this. Anytime people are trying to do something, some people are quitting because they haven't taken advantage of at their job and people aren't paying them the right thing. And they are, being told they don't have certain rights. That makes sense. But you also have a lot of following energy. Remember, we're dealing with Jupiter, expansion. So because Jupiter is trying to get out, it's about to get out into Pisces, but Jupiter was in Aquarius bouncing around for a very long time. Because of that, understand, people then want that freedom that Jupiter provides, and people are saying, I'm just going to leave. Let me record myself being obnoxious, quitting my job. Let me do what that person just did. So the thing I'm saying is there are people who legitimately have grievances with companies and legitimately have real concerns, right? But you also are seeing the internet culture we have, the social media culture. I'm going to go on TikTok and film myself quitting and get these likes, as opposed to just quitting and just doing what you need to do. Sometimes some stories do need to be highlighted, but you also have to understand with social media, there's a lot of people doing things for clout. There are a lot of people doing things. It's different from a person who's been at a job for 10 years, hasn't been the hardest worker there. They're not being appreciated versus a person who's like, oh, let me quit my job after a week because, it's hard, right? Because you have people who have work ethic. So I want us to understand that as everybody says, I want to do what that person did. Everybody can't afford to quit. Some people have families to take care of. But also, everybody is not quitting for the same reasons. You get what I'm saying? And I want to be very clear on that following culture we also have of people who know they can go quit their job, get some likes and, get a lot of buzz on their channel, maybe get monetized because they're so funny in how they told off their manager. But then it's like, some people, it's a different reason why some people are fed up. Working at some place for, now again, some jobs, some companies are completely unreasonable. And I understand why somebody would not want to be there. But I do think it's a give and take situation. And I also think that companies do have to come up with a plan. Companies do have to understand, there are other ways to do things. And America just has a different culture of work than other countries do. I think there is way more of a grind yourself to dust type of attitude in America when it comes to work and life balance. Whereas in other countries, more so some of the European countries and even Canada that has a better maternity and paternity leave package, it just is longer. America just has a different culture about work, and there's nothing against working, and there's nothing against being a hard worker and being dedicated. But I do think sometimes I see other countries have a very different mindset, and I just wonder how America could sometimes not work everybody to death, and how we can still have that kind of work-life balance. So that's it for this Astrology Explained It All. It's pretty long, so if you watch some of it, all of it, a little bit of it, I appreciate that. And please hit the like button. If there's anything you would think would be suitable for me to talk about on Astrology Explains It All, please drop in the comments, and I'll try to accommodate it.